Chris Armitage versus reality. Chris Armitage. I researched every attempt to stop fascism in history. The success rate is 0%. Once they win elections, it's already too late. Rebuttal. Wrong. Fascism was stopped repeatedly. Hitler's Reich ended in a Berlin bunker. Mussolini swung from a gas station beam. Franco's Spain transitioned into democracy. Greece's junta crumbled. Portugal's fascists fell. Fascism isn't eternal. It collapses when people refuse to bow. What is almost permanent? Marxist regimes. The USSR lasted 70 years. China still enslaves 1.4 billion. Cuba is trapped in poverty, and North Korea is a gulag. If you want inevitability, Chris, look at socialism, not fascism. Chris Armitage. Conservatives thought they could control Hitler in 1933. Within 2 years, they were dead or groveling for survival. Rebuttal. And Democrats today think they can control Marxism. They feed the beast. Open borders, DEI quotas, censorship, weaponized agencies. Just like von Papen, they believe they are clever. But Marxism doesn't compromise. It devours. If Trump hadn't won, we wouldn't be talking about fascism. We'd be choking under socialism, with Chris cheering from the sidelines. Chris Armitage. Italy in 1922 could have crushed Mussolini, but the king caved. 23 years later, Mussolini was dead, but hundreds of thousands of Italians died for that moment of cowardice. Rebuttal. Yes, Mussolini died, and fascism died with him. Italians reclaimed their country. Compare that to Lenin's Bolsheviks in 1917. No king caved. They took power and never gave it back. The USSR enslaved half of Europe until 1991. That's not 23 years. That's generations. Which system is more complex to stop? Chris Armitage. Spain's republic begged for help in 1936. Nobody stopped Franco. He ruled for 39 years. Rebuttal. And when he died, Spain became a democracy. Contrast that with Cuba. Castro took over in 1959, and here we are in 2025. Cubans still risking their lives on rafts to escape. Chris cries about Franco, but says nothing about the Marxist dictators who outlived him by decades. Why? Because he refuses to acknowledge that the Marxist record is worse. Chris Armitage. Fascists use violence and always win. Democrats follow rules and always lose. Rebuttal. Really? Tell that to the Allied troops who stormed Normandy and crushed Hitler. Tell that to the Italian partisans who dragged Mussolini through the streets. Violence didn't just work for fascists. It worked to end them. But Marxism? Violence only props it up. Stalin murdered millions, Mao starved millions, and Pol Pot slaughtered 1/3 of Cambodia. Those regimes didn't collapse from within. They collapsed after decades of suffering. Chris pretends fascism is unstoppable while ignoring the far longer, bloodier record of socialism. Chris Armitage. The U.S. is already finished. The window closed. Trump is above the law. Rebuttal. Wrong again. Trump won because the American people saw through the Marxist lie. They weren't as stupid as Chris thought. He calls it fascism. In reality, it was millions of voters saying no to Marxism, globalism, and the destruction of American sovereignty. America hasn't fallen. America woke up. Trump's election was the firewall that stopped the socialist slide. Closing. Chris Armitage wants to spare. He wants you to believe resistance is pointless and fascism is inevitable. But history and reality don't back him up. Fascism has been defeated. Socialism drags on. And in 2016, Americans chose to reject both the Marxist future Chris wanted and the inevitability he claims. Trump won because Americans weren't fooled. Chris and his fellow Marxists bet against the people and lost. Please like, comment, and subscribe.